It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 173. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is Sunday, March 29th, 2026. A great day for a podcast about video games and more. So I hope you're doing great out there in the world. Wherever and whenever you're listening to this, thank you for being here. The first order of business is to ask you to follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly, places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. And then Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. And today's show will have three sections as always. The first section, I'll talk about what video games I've been playing since I last talked to you on this microphone. The mid section, which is not mid in quality, it's the middle of the show. That's where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And the third and final section, the Miscellaneous Talk section, where I can talk about anything I want to outside the video game world. I like to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. And my favorite team in the universe is back playing officially this weekend for a couple games so far, and they've both been good results. So I'm going to talk some about that and just an update of, all my favorite teams out there in the universe. But that is a long ways away. We're going to talk about some video games first. So that's the plan here on this Atlanta Braves Sunday. So that's the team I was talking about, but they actually play in about 3 hours from real time when I'm recording this. So definitely on Sundays going to be looking to get the podcast out before the Braves game. So going to be hearing some early Dep Lewis shows for the coming months. That's the plan. All right, so let's see here. Let's talk about the video games I've been playing since I've last talked to you. And there's really only been one main game that I've been playing. And this is the one I've been playing for the last couple weeks, and that's Pokemon LeafGreen. And I've made some good progress there. I made it to Celadon City. I went to the department store. I bought a Thunderstone and a Firestone. And this helped me evolve Pikachu into Raichu. And then I turned Eevee, which you pick up Eevee, I think at like the top, the back end of the department store. Might not be correct all the way, but you can actually find an Eevee in the world. I believe it's in Celadon City. And it's a level 25 Eevee. So I purchased the Firestone, and I turned Eevee into Flareon because the only three options you have in this game are Vaporeon, Jolteon, or Flareon. So no Glaceons, no Sylveons, no Espeons, no the other Ons yet. I think those start showing up a little. I think those show up in Diamond and Pearl is what I was reading. But so now I have a strong. I think the Raichu now is around level 30. Flareon showed up around level 26, I guess it was, or 25, and then I think my Flareon's about over 30 now. So I have some pretty strong Pokemon in my party, and I keep getting more, and I'm kind of at the point now where there's going to be some hard decisions when I stumble across some new Pokemon. So in Celadon City, I also defeated the gym leader Erica, which was grass types. I took Flareon into this battle thinking that would be so helpful, but my Flareon currently doesn't have any fire type moves, and I think I read I don't get any until level 35, and I don't get like a truly good one till level 50 or something like that. So I'm pretty close to level 35 with Flareon, and I would like to use Flareon as my fire Pokemon in my party. So it would have been nice for the grass type gym, but at least got Flareon some experience, and I think Venusaur, I ended up maybe switching to Venusaur or whatnot, because my Venusaur I think is pushing level 50. It might be over 50 now, but after defeating the gym leader Erica, I can now command Pokemon up to level 50. So I guess my Nidoking would probably listen to me now, unlike he normally doesn't like to do. But Venusaur is still my strongest by far, and I guess that's going to continue throughout the game because Venusaur. I think Venusaur is definitely one of my favorites. All right, so what else is going on in Pokemon LeafGreen? I have also defeated Giovanni, and he is in the Celadon City game corner, so you have to go fight a bunch of Team Rocket guys down in the basement underneath the Celadon City game corner with all the slots and everything, and you get to the end and you get the Sylph Scope, I believe is what it's called. And this is going to allow me to go to Lavender Town and go through the Pokemon Tower and be able to identify the Pokemon and I guess be able to progress forward in there to get whatever else it is I'm going to need. So I think that's my next plan on the docket, is to go to Lavender Town and go into the Pokemon Tower and try to complete what's going on there. I'm a little bit scared of the Pokemon Tower. My only familiarity with that is maybe playing Let's Go Pikachu. I don't know if it would have been in there. I guess maybe it would have. And I don't know. I don't think I had the scope or whatever the first time, or if the tower is in other Pokemon games as well. I tried to do it without having the scope or something, and it was bad luck. And so I think this time at least I'm more prepared, and I will definitely keep you updated on that. So I took down Giovanni, and then I've made my way to Saffron City. I think that is the between Celadon and Lavender, but maybe don't quote me on some of these things. I am learning as I go. And in Saffron City, I defeated the Karate Masters. You walk into this house, it's like a random karate dojo, and there's all these guys that want to fight you, and you end up getting to the top dog of the Karate Masters, and I took him down, and I was able to pick between a Hitmonlee, I guess it was a Hitmonlee or a Hitmonchan. So I ended up picking Hitmonlee. The internet told me quickly that Hitmonlee was a little bit of the stronger choice, and it's a level 25 Hitmonlee, so that's pretty good. And that definitely brings, I don't have any Pokemon in my party below level 25 at this point. I guess Hitmonlee is my lowest one. So I'm trying to think of my full party at this point. It's Venusaur, it's Flareon, it's Raichu, it's Gyarados, it's Hitmonlee, and there's one more. I'm missing another one in there. It's no longer Clefairy. Oh, Nidoking. That's the last one too. So all pretty strong, and I think Nidoking's my second strongest, and I think Flareon and Raichu are the two below that, and then all the other ones are kind of in the same ballpark. So I have a pretty good variety going. I have pretty good type differences. Once I can get a fire move for Flareon, I think I'll be in really good shape here. So I'm gonna have to start fighting some Psychic and or Fairy type Pokemon and more of the tricky ones, I guess, coming up. So I need to kind of look what I need to do to battle those. Maybe Nidoking will be kind of good for that, but I need to brush up on my strengths and weaknesses that's going on out there. So I got a good bit done, and I've also been doing some leveling. I've been basically trying to level up Flareon to try to get to level 35. I think I'm pretty close. It looks like you can buy the Flamethrower TM, which is the one I really want to get. I think that's the one you get around level 50 or so. But if you want to buy this at Celadon City Game Corner, I think it'll run you, what is it? Like 32 grand, maybe something like that. It's pretty expensive, maybe a little bit more. And I think the total amount of money I have is 40 or 50 grand. Maybe I should buy it. Because now I'm even thinking about it now, it's like, it would be extremely helpful. I'm not going to be able to get this for 20 more levels, so maybe it is okay to spend my money on that. So I'm going to think about that. But that's been my main objective recently. It's just been leveling up Flareon. I've been doing that outside of one of the cities I'm in. I think Saffron or Lavender, and just walking around the grass and leveling up on some easy battles. But I've been having a whole lot of fun with this game. I think I'm about to get to the 30-hour mark, possibly. And I think I'm around only 30 Pokemon caught, maybe a little more than that. But I've been working on having a really strong party. Not just having one tank, which I do have a tank, which is my Venusaur, but also having other Pokemon that can come in and win a bunch of fights for me. So I'm feeling pretty good out there in the Poke Streets on Pokemon LeafGreen. And I've been playing this game a lot in handheld, and that's been really nice. So I'm getting I guess that's the classic old school Pokemon game feel is in handheld, and I think it still holds up really nicely. I'm thinking this easily has to be one of my favorite Pokemon games, or easily my favorite one at this point. So I'm gonna have to think about that some more as I keep playing through this. But I'm having a lot of fun with Pokemon LeafGreen. Very thankful that was able to be purchased on the Switch and not have to get a physical copy. That's $130. All right, so what else have I been playing? That's really been the main thing. I would say 95% of the week was playing some Pokemon LeafGreen, but early in the week I did play some more Ghost of Yotei, which is the Dep Lewis Show Game of the Year award winner for 2025, a wonderful video game. I'm still completing some of the open world stuff is what I was doing. So I was able to actually get like maybe 5 or 6 more maps placed on the map of things to go do. I did maybe half of them, and I'm going to have to continue doing that stuff because it's really, really fun. I've been pretty much doing everything in this world, and I think I think that's why I'm like maybe 60 hours in, haven't completed the game, but I've been doing, everything out in the open world, and it's been fun to go back to. And it's going to be cliche, but it feels like riding a bike going back in there and playing Atsu. Everything in the game feels great. Everything's extremely fun. The controls are awesome. It looks amazing. The characters you meet around the world are cool. And even if you want to just go do some mindless mission hunting or side questing, it's fun with that as well. So, I didn't really do anything important in the game, like story-wise the other day. I just did open world stuff. I have more perks than I could ever need. I'm not really even looking at the skill tree anymore. I'm just picking things I haven't chosen yet because it's just like, whatever, I need to spend them on something. So I'm still having fun with this game even in the new year. And this has been the only game when I've like booted up my PlayStation that I want to play still. So I'm still playing some Ghost of Yotei, and you might hear me talking more about that in the upcoming months or weeks. But Pokemon Leaf Green has been the main thing I'm playing, and I see that continuing. I still haven't been back on the Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've let that one rest for a little bit. I'm still thinking about Pokemon Pokopia a lot. I've been thinking about that one almost daily of like, hey, should I try this? I'm into Pokemon a lot right now. I really love Animal Crossing. It seems like a perfect layup of a game, but I don't know what my apprehension is necessarily. And then the other one I still want to try possibly is Resident Evil 9. Still been excited for that. Still been interested in trying that on the Switch. But even possibly, playing it on PlayStation, I don't know. I just heard that game's really good. I'm a little bit scared of horror games, but I think I could maybe toughen up and try to play some of it or play through it. So those are the two games that I'm thinking of recently of like new releases I still might want to pick up. But this is the year of the front log on the Dep Lewis Show. So I'm focusing on new releases this year. I'm not necessarily trying to like make a backlog or create a list of games to complete or go back in the beginning of a franchise if I don't want to. So the front log right now I have is Forza Horizon 6, which releases on May 19th for Xbox and at a later date for PlayStation 5. So that's what I'm going to have to wait on. But I do think Forza Horizon 6 is my most anticipated game of all games right now, or all games that have, definitely within the year of the release date. But it's up there. I really love the Forza Horizon games, and I think this one's going to be a strong contender for Game of the Year just from my hype and previous quality of the games, and I'm just really excited for it. It's been a couple years since those have come out, since that last Horizon entry, and I can't wait to play that one. Mina the Hollower, another game I'm looking forward to. That one comes out in spring 2026. I played the demo of this and really, really liked it, and I think it's going to be a classic, game that's under $20 that's released. I talk about them all the time. Dead Cells, Spelunky, Binding of Isaac, Balatro, Vampire Survivors, Ball Pit. I don't know. I think I said Dead Cells already. Super Meat Boy. There's all sorts of games like that. And I think Mina the Hollower, I guess Stardew, Hollow Knight, Silk Song, Undertale. I think Mina the Hollower is going to be in that category as well. All right, more of the front log. Marvel Token Fighting Souls comes out August 6th. Looks like an extremely cool tag team fighting game. Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2, August 27th. Marvel's Wolverine, September 15th from Insomniac, one of my favorite developers of all time. And then Grand Theft Auto 6, November 19th. So a pretty awesome list there of front log games. And there's going to be more. There's going to be surprises. There's going to be things that aren't announced yet. And I guess some stuff is potentially going to be trying to stay away from Grand Theft Auto. And I guess if I had to make a bet, I would say Grand Theft Auto is going to get pushed somehow. I don't think it's really going to come out that day, but that is really just a guess and a intuition and a whatever you want to call it pick. But Forza Horizon 6, can't wait to play. And Marvel's Wolverine, I guess, will be my... that one's probably pretty much tied with Forza Horizon 6, but maybe just a little bit notch below, because I want to see how that one feels unique to Spider-Man, because I love the feel of the Marvel Spider-Man games and swinging around, and what are they going to do to make Wolverine as much fun to do, like in the open world, or what's the unique spin going to be on that? I think Insomniac can do anything, so I'm giving them all the benefit of the doubt, but I do have the slightest bit of I wonder, because I don't have like a huge, I like superheroes, but I don't have like a huge affinity for any of them. And I think I've always thought Wolverine's cool. I mean, I think a lot of people do. That's why they're have chosen that IP for this game. But I still think there's a little bit there of I need to see it all the way, believe it. But I trust Insomniac for sure. So that's my front log list, and that's all the updates on what I've been doing video game wise in the last week, and I think the upcoming week will probably be a lot of the same for me, unless I decide to possibly tap into the Pokemon Pokopia or Resident Evil 9, which I've been thinking about. So really, it's a great time to be a video gamer. I think it always is, pretty much. There's a lot of great games out here. So that's everything going on with me. That's going to wrap up the first section, and I'm going to play some music, and we're going to come back for the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 173, after this. Welcome back to the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 173. This is where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And the first thing I want to tell you about is another one. I'm laughing not because it's funny, but because this was I've talked about this so many times on this show, of a particular brand of news here. So another one, thoughts and prayers to all these people involved in this, but Epic Games has laid off over 1,000 employees. So in the, ever advancing, ever growing trend of people who work for development studios getting laid off, this is a pretty huge one here for Epic Games, laying off over 1,000 employees. So their back of the box talk on this one, which I have some thought. I like reading these corporate statements. They're always very similar. And we're going to talk about this particular one. So the Epic Games, their quote for laying off 1,000 employees. Today we're laying off over 1,000 Epic employees. I'm sorry we're here again. The downturn in Fortnite engagement that started in 2025 means we're spending significantly more than we're making, and we have to make major cuts to keep the company funded. This layoff, together with over $500 million of identified cost savings in contracting, marketing, and closing some open roles, puts us in a more stable place. So I'm laughing through this just because some of this stuff, I think my advice, I'm just a guy who talks about video games on a podcast, but my advice was they should quit explaining the details here. They should leave it pretty much at, today we're laying off over 1,000 employees. We're sorry to do this. And, they were great employees, but this is like a strategic decision. You don't got to get into the details on this because, realistically, nobody cares would be my opinion on this. And it's just going to open you up to criticism like I'm doing of your statement right here. So I would just say, keep these things a little more short and sweet. You're laying these people off. What else do you need to do to save face? It's just bad news. You don't need to try to spin the bad news here. Like they say, I'm sorry we're here again. That's trying to be like a real personable kind of quote in there. That's kind of nice. And then they get into the, and then they bring up immediately, oh yeah, people haven't been playing Fortnite as much. It's like, these are definitely some strategic problems with the way they were handling this. So, this is something they need to fix on their end, and they need to just keep this short and sweet would be my opinion. But when they talk about money, dollars, savings in here, it's like, big whoop. So some of the other quote they say for the reasoning for this, of Epic Games laying off over 1,000 employees, is some of the challenges we're facing are industry-wide challenges. Slower growth, weaker spending, and tougher cost economics. Current consoles are selling less than last generations, and games competing for time against other increasingly engaging forms of entertainment. So the whole, and I'm sure these trends are true and it makes sense, and people are probably playing less Fortnite, and, they have some other quotes in there, even really getting more into the weeds on like, I think they are discontinuing some modes and things like that, and they're talking about they've seen the numbers decrease after like their last big showcase, blah, 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 whatever. But the other context here is you don't need to feel bad for Epic Games. They've been doing some poor planning here with Fortnite and maybe some of their IP, trying to think that the growth is going to last forever and nothing can stop them. But that's probably not true for anything. And some quick Googling, Epic Games made $6 billion last year. So, they're talking about $500 million and some cost savings. It's like they made $6 billion last year. So you don't have to really feel too bad for them about their slow growth. Epic Games has a valuation of over $31.5 billion. So, pretty large sum. And the CEO, Tim Sweeney, is worth $5 billion. So a lot of money over there at the Epic Games. And I don't know, just sad and unfortunate news for all these people. I think there were some quotes after this of like, hey, we're flooding the market with a lot of great candidates. It's like nobody wants to hear that. If they've worked there a long time and been a good employee and have it on the resume or whatever, that should speak for themselves. They don't need someone out here
who's let them go, saying, hey, we let go some good ones. I don't think it's making any of them feel better. And it just comes off a little bit silly. So, thoughts and prayers to all the people affected by the layoffs at Epic Games. Always sad news, putting these people's lives up in the air, and hopefully everyone can land on their feet. But we've seen this so many times with video game companies. They're all a lot of miscalculations, a lot of, I guess what they always say, hindsight's 20/20, but just poor planning, bad decision making. Saying they're spending more than they're making. And these are these giant companies making $6 billion. It's like, you think they would be able to figure it out. But Epic Games, so that's the start of the news there. So, sad day over there at Epic Games. All right, let's talk about some more kind of bummer video game news. PlayStation, the most recent console, PlayStation 5, is getting a price increase. Can you believe that? So the last price increase for PlayStation 5 console was, it was last August. It was around $50 increase on like the different SKUs or whatever. So, back in my day when I played video games, over time consoles would get cheaper. And yes, the chip shortages and memory shortages, I know those are all different times, but it's just different. It's just different. It's just a wild thing to see. Normally people, early adopters, you could wait and maybe get a console later in the life cycle for a cheaper amount, but no, they are going to raise the price on you now. So it's just, and this is another company that makes a whole bunch of money. So it's just ridiculous that they're passing on some of the hurt their wallet is feeling to the consumer. But, that's how it goes out here. But so, more sad news. PlayStation, new price changes for PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5 Pro, and PlayStation Portal Remote Player. And PlayStation 5 is a 6-year-old console at this point that, barely has any, has barely gotten started in most people's opinions on having like a library that you could be proud of that are PlayStation 5 games. PlayStation 5 Pro, pretty much, just a little bit of a graphical update, but I don't think a large percentage of PlayStation fans have been taking advantage or really, really singing the praises of the PlayStation 5 Pro. And the Portal does seem like a good addition to the landscape there, but that one's come out a couple years as well. So these are all the prices on these are going up. Excuse me. And PlayStation says, so I love reading these corporate quotes because it's going to sound a lot like Epic Games. So you think they would get together and be like, hey, we need to quit. All sounded the exact same, but maybe it's also the other playbook of trying to sound the same. But that just seems so silly. So they say with PlayStation in regard to their price increase, with continued pressure in the global economic landscape, we've made the decision to increase the prices of the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5 Pro, and PlayStation Portal Remote Player globally. And they always talk make it sound so somber, but they're the one delivering you terrible news. They just we know that price changes impact our community, and after careful evaluation, oh yes, so careful, we found this was a necessary step to ensure. They love saying some ensure we can continue delivering innovative, high quality experiences to players worldwide. Yeah. Whatever. Ridiculous. That's what I think the majority of people would say or feel about this. It's ridiculous. So the updated recommended retail prices for PlayStation 5 consoles are effective starting April 2nd, 2026, as follows for the U.S. PlayStation 5 is going up to $649 from $549, a $100 increase. PlayStation 5 Digital is going up to $599 from $499, a $100 increase of U.S. dollars. PlayStation 5 Pro is now going to be $899.99 from $749, a $150 increase on the PlayStation 5 Pro. So the console that probably hasn't sold very much or very well, they're increasing the price, just like they did over on the Xbox side. PlayStation Portal, $249 now, was $199, only a $50 increase there. So, thank you for that one. So just very, very silly. And I think, the anything is an Xbox, that thing's been retired, but I think going forward, just mostly just, most people are just going to probably pick a console or pick something and just be okay with it. Not going to be able to have all these consoles, not going to be able to keep up with the not going to want to buy a PlayStation 6 possibly. It's going to be like there's not going to be a giant reason. It's going to be more and more like cell phones where you don't really need the latest one. They're all going to play pretty much the same things. And that is a big change, but maybe it's not the worst. You definitely don't want to have to go pay these crazy prices, 6 years later after a console came out. I mean, who is really going to feel good about going to buy a PlayStation 5 right now? I don't think anybody. It's just kind of a strange thing, and it's a really, really weird trend. Every single company is doing this in the video game space, and it's like a copycat thing, and they're like I said, they're passing the hurt on to their consumers, and I think eventually people will get tired of this kind of stuff. I really do. And I think people won't be able to afford these things, which I think people probably can't already. It's like some really crazy things on these prices, and it's not just something you can pick up on a whim. And if you have other ways to play games, a lot of free-to-play games. I'm an older video gamer, but I think younger people, I don't think this is going to be of any interest to a lot of them. This might be maybe going the way of the dinosaur a little bit with some of this stuff. And these companies are, maybe have done some poor planning with this, but we'll see. I'm still a fan of these companies. I'm talking some trash on them right now because this is some sad news, and this is kind of the way that a lot of these things go, but it's still sad regardless. And this price increases is not normally the way things go. So this one's a weird thing to see, and I think this is maybe some dangerous territory for some of these companies with what they're doing, especially with like the longer term. That's the whole thing, I guess, would be the question mark here. The short-term gain here, how it's going to affect them in the long term. And I think that's the fire they're playing with here with doing all these price increases. And, they're doing so many of them now recently. It's hard to keep up with how many they've done. Like a lot of people might not remember they did one back in August, but either way, if you go to look at one of these in the store, you're going to look at the price and say, damn, that looks crazy. So it looks crazy, feels crazy. I think it probably is a little bit crazy. All right. Let's get into the better side of video game news. Besides starting off with those two topics, there was actually, this one's not really, I'm not really too high on this one either. So maybe I'm feeling negative this week, or who knows, but Xbox had a partner preview that took place last week on March 26th. I just gotta say, I think this was pretty disappointing overall. I think I watched the majority of this, so I can't say I watched the whole thing. I definitely read all the news and stuff from it. I didn't really come away with any excitement of the games they announced they were going to talk about. I don't really have any more interest in those. And there was a few announcements from this that I do think are cool, but they're not necessarily related to specific Xbox things that are going on that are great, or just like really new news. So we're going to get into it here, but this is one you should definitely maybe go watch for yourself to see if you have any interest in some of these newer games. I don't really think anything caught my eye here too particularly, but that's just, my opinion. So Xbox partner preview. It was a broadcast dedicated to amazing games from third-party partners. This is their back-of-the-box talk. The show will walk us through a mix of new announcements and game updates, including Stranger Than Heaven, The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, Stalker 2, and more in about 30 minutes. So it was like a 33 minutes of footage and trailers and announcements that they were showing you. So I didn't really write anything down about those three games mentioned there. I think Stalker's been out for a while, and the other two I'm not really familiar with, but there were a couple announcements I thought were interesting. Super Meat Boy 3D, which I guess I'm only really interested just based on past Meat Boy. For some reason, I don't know. I'm a little unsure on this one of how this one's going to land, but their trailer, I think, did kind of a poor job of showing this game off. It was just a little bit cliche. It was a 90s style trailer for this, and it was just a little bit like, I don't know if the word's like overhanded or maybe a little bit pandery, something like that, of like trying to appear cool, and it just really wasn't. It was just kind of lame, and I don't think really Meat Boy needs too much explanation or marketing if it's fun Meat Boy game. It's sort of like a cult classic, cult hero kind of game, and I think that's probably the lane it would mostly stay in. So it just seems a little bit off there. But Super Meat Boy 3D got a release date announcement for March 31st. So just in a couple of days, you're listening in real time. It's coming out multi-platform for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC. It is touted as a tough-as-nails platformer where you play as an animated cube of meat who's trying to save his girlfriend, who happens to be made of bandages, from an evil fetus in a jar wearing a tux in 3D. So that's the big change here. So I think that is the sell here. Is this game going to be as fun in 3D? Have they nailed it? Does it feel as good as it did in 2D? I think there's some questions. I think the at least the last Meat Boy release was underwhelming. It was an auto-scroller, I believe. I think, original Meat Boy fans were not into that as much, and I'm talking about myself and even a friend of the show and friend of real life, Volness, and he's definitely a huge Meat Boy fan. and he was down on that one as well. So I think that's the overall sentiment out there. But taking the game from 2D to 3D is a natural evolution. It's a cool change, mostly in Mario and other games, Donkey Kong. I guess a lot of games have Metroid. A lot of games have done this, so it's not like a abnormal change, but something you want to see how it's going to land. It's been a long time since that original Meat Boy game came out and was such a hit. It's back on the 360 days, I believe, and maybe even a little bit before on PC. But Super Meat Boy 3D has a release date, March 31st. Developer is Sluggerfly and Team Meat, published by Head Up and G Cores Publishing. No price shown, but my guess it would be between the $15 to $30 range would be my guess. All right, another announcement from the Xbox Partner Preview, Dispatch. That's a game that released last year, October 2025, for PlayStation 5 and PC. It's been announced that it's coming to Xbox in the summer of 2026. So no official date, but summer 2026, Dispatch is coming to Xbox. It is a superhero workplace comedy where choices matter. Manage a dysfunctional team of misfit heroes and strategize who descend to emergencies around the city, all while balancing office politics, personal relationships, and your own quest to become a hero. All episodes are out now. So this is developed and published by Ad Hoc Studio. I think this was kind of a surprise hit for a lot of people last year. I heard a lot of positive things about this. A lot of different outlets and people I watch were into this. This game came to Nintendo Switch 2 recently. I think it runs well there. And this one seems like it has, the people really like the characters and the story that's going on here. And then the management sim stuff was fun as well. So it seems unique. It seems pretty cool. I don't know if it's really up my alley, but I know a lot of people were high on Dispatch, and I think it's cool that it's coming to Xbox in the summer. All right, the last announcement from the Xbox Partner Preview that I thought was interesting and wanted to bring to you today is a game called Hades 2. And that one's coming to Xbox Series and PlayStation 5 April 14th. That's the news here. So Hades 2 is a really fun game. I've been playing that on Switch since it released on Switch 2 last year. It officially released September 2025 for Switch and PC. So it came out of early access into 1.0 back last September. I maybe played maybe 10 hours of this, and I definitely plan to play more of Hades 2 in the future. I think it's really cool. I think the main character, Milena, is awesome, and I think the overall green style and it's a little more bright, colorful kind of stuff more than the black and red of just hell or whatever from the first game. So I think it just looks cool. The combat feels amazing, and it's one recently I've been thinking about going back to playing some more of. But the news here is Hades 2 is coming to Xbox Series and PlayStation 5 was kind of the side note here since this is the Xbox Partner Preview. But it's coming to those platforms on April 14th. It looks like it's going to be $29.99 US. That's what it's on sale for in the Xbox Store. It's currently on sale for $23.99 if you want to buy it in the next 16 days. That's what it said on there. So if you're listening in real time, you got 16 days to go get the discounted Hades 2 on the Xbox Store. I'm not sure if PlayStation is doing something similar. But the back-of-the-box talk on Hades 2 is battle beyond the underworld using dark sorcery to take on the Titan of Time in this bewildering sequel to the award-winning roguelike dungeon crawler. So developed and published by Supergiant Games, and this is one of those, I was talking about, Hollow Knights, the prior Meat Boy game, Spelunky, just any in that whole category of amazing games that are in the 20 and under range. A game you could play whenever. A game you could, they're just classic video games to me, and I think these are games you could play always. That's kind of what I mean. But Hades 2 coming to Xbox and PlayStation 5 April 14th. That was an announcement, or half of that was an announcement from the Xbox Partner Preview that took place last week. So that was kind of everything I thought from the Partner Preview that was interesting to me. But that showcase was around 33 minutes if you want to go watch it yourself on Xbox's YouTube channel. Or I believe I watched Giant Bomb talk over this. I think I watched, I think I watched most of it, but Giant Bomb has a talk over if you want to go watch somebody talk over it. All right, so what else do I have for you on the news front this week? Just into the Xbox rumor mill, a couple things that were floated out there, nothing too official. We've been getting some new stuff since the new CEO has taken over. It looks like Xbox is working on a handheld alongside Project Helix. So I think this is rumored for PlayStation 6 is doing this as well. I just don't know what I think about this because they tried to do that Xbox ROG Ally. Seems like that was pretty much a flop. They're saying this one's going to come out and want to compete more with the Steam Deck. And it seems like their whole next console idea is trying to be a battle between the Steam Deck and the Steam Machine. So I guess that's just the way everything's going. And I don't know what I think about this. I really don't. I haven't really fully thought about it yet. My immediate thought is it's going to be a niche product. I don't think it's going to ever be hitting any kind of crazy sales numbers. And I'm sure they're in there cooking this up thinking it's going to be the next big takeover. And I really don't think it is. The Steam Deck's not even really been a big takeover. And it has like some of the most favorable reviews around. It's just more of a niche product that, like I was kind of saying earlier, a lot of people play games on their phones and things like that, or not everyone's going to be able to afford these $900 consoles or whatever they're going to be. So I think giving more options in the hardware front that are going to be expensive and expect them to really, really be selling, I think is kind of a crazy position to be in at this time. So I just can't say I'm excited for that. I could be potentially in the group of someone who would want a handheld, but the Switch 2 being able to play third-party stuff really makes it solve 90% of games I would want to play. I mean, I can't play Ghost of Yotei on there or some other brand new high-end stuff, but it's not I'm not always playing that kind of stuff. And it even can run some brand new things like Resident Evil 9. So I think the necessity of some of these other ones, outside the Switch 2, which you can play in handheld and on your TV in one package, I don't know. But that one's some rumor mill stuff out there, and I do think that one probably has some truth to it. The other one out there, CEO Asha Sharma says she would like to make Game Pass cheaper. And this could include introducing lower cost tiers with ads or bundling with Netflix. So this is my new thing that I'm on of these, or anybody goes wrong when you start watering down your product. So Game Pass was amazing when it first came out. There was tons of games on it. There was brand new things being added to it. And over time, it gets watered down. They, trying to pump every extra penny they can get out of it when the numbers are going down, and ultimately, it's going to result in nobody wanting it. And they're going to be watering it down with lower cost tiers, but they're going to be putting ads in there. Ads are a nuisance to everybody. Or bundling it with Netflix, another service that's probably, I don't know about Netflix if they're gaining or losing subscribers, but I haven't subscribed to Netflix in a long time. The opening day baseball game was on Netflix, so one game of the year or something like that you had to subscribe to Netflix for. I thought about it, do I give them $8 to watch this game or just live my life? And it was like, I'm just going to live my life and save my $8 that they're trying to manipulate you to get you into 1 month on their service and then make you have to cancel. It's just really, really ridiculous. I can go without watching one baseball game, and that's the way probably I think the majority of people probably feel about some of this stuff. So I think Game Pass is pretty much cooked. I think touting it as anything greater than what PlayStation's doing at this point, I think it's all pretty much the same. And, maybe just give up the making a big deal about Game Pass. Maybe just make it more of a, oh yeah, there's a catalog of games you can play online, blah, 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 talk to your friends. I don't think we really need too much of it at this point because they're not really going to go back to, the glory days of Game Pass when it really was an amazing thing, because they don't have that many new games to put on there or things that are really going to be exciting for people to want to play on day one that you're going to be getting a deal for playing a subscription. There's not enough games coming out these days to make that feasible. So, I mean, they don't even have the exact product to sell through Game Pass. They're basically just kind of selling you a library of old games with some new stuff getting added, which is really, really cool if you haven't played these games or you want to try some new stuff out. But I think there's really a cap on that, and they're looking, they're always looking to make, infinite numbers from these things. And if they're not getting infinite numbers, they're going to look the other way. And I just think this one's cooked, is my opinion, over there on the Game Pass. And I don't think doing the bundle package is like a way to, like, you would get higher album sales or whatever, bundling it with your tickets. So they're probably going to try to do some of those shenanigans. But, none of these are going to be true metrics. If you're phoning up your metrics a little bit, it's just kind of fooling your own selves as well. So seems like some foolery going on there with the Game Pass, but this is all just rumor mill stuff for Xbox. So, all right, what else I got for you today? A lot of like high level kind of news and stuff going on this week. On Nintendo Switch 2 consoles, Nintendo is allegedly cutting back on manufacturing following weaker than expected holiday sales. So Nintendo now expects to make 4 million Switch 2 units this quarter, down 33% on the 6 million it previously planned to manufacture. So this is one where everyone's like, oh yeah, the Switch 2, no one wants it. It's a flop. But, all last year, 99% of the stores are how much it was selling, how quickly it was selling. And this is just a change in their forecasting. So I don't think anything too crazy here. I think Nintendo has a big hit on their hands right now with Pokemon Pokopia. I do think they have a problem with their like release schedule of other games. I think they could probably have a Mario or a Zelda or something really big, a Smash, come through at this point, maybe to get people more excited for it. But I think Pokopia is selling a lot of consoles, and I think they're not even doing slow and steady, but I think they're in a great position. I think they put out a great product with their Switch 2. I think it exceeds expectations with actually what it's doing, and its library is only going to get stronger over time. I think it is an expensive console, so I think that turns a lot of people off. I think that's going to be a problem. I think if they're going to raise the price, I think that could possibly hurt them. But I think it's smart, maybe, change the projections down. And I think this seems, I guess, even thinking through it now, maybe this seems like a smart move, and maybe it's a move that's going to allow them to keep the price the same. And I think that's pretty important with if you want to stand out in a way, I think that's a way to stand out and make people loyal to you. And I think that, we're going to talk about another thing Nintendo's doing that is, I think, another good move, and it's kind of like a small move, but I think it's one that shows a little bit of good intentions. Or, ultimately they're a company trying to make a lot of money, but it is nice to get a little, feel like you get a small win sometimes. So that's just a little bit of news about the production of the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't think that one's anything like too much of a firestorm. I don't think the console sales have gone off a bridge, but I do think it's expensive. I think a lot of people have got on the train maybe with the early hype. Maybe some of the early hype or honeymoon stage with it has fallen off, but we've seen a lot of people talking about, hey, I'm buying this to get Pokopia, and I'm sure Nintendo plans on releasing more games they're going to want people to buy the console for. So I think it's okay over there with Nintendo Switch 2. And that might just be because I'm a fan of the console, but those are my thoughts on it. Nintendo Switch 2 games, there's some updates there with the pricing. So physical games, I don't know how to phrase this, but they're basically going to charge you $10 more for physical games. They're not raising the price up to $70 or whatever. I think they're still operating. I think they're operating under the baseline of a base standard game for like a first-party Nintendo game is $69.99 if you're going to buy a physical version. But you're going to be able to buy the digital version for $10 cheaper, so $59.99 from their store. And I think that is, it's a little bit of foolery of, hey, they increased the price, but hey, they could not do this. So I think this one's a small win for the normal gamers out here, and I think it's a nice option. I'm not someone who is a huge collector. I do like having some physical games, but it's not like a huge thing to me. I do like trying to get the deals where I can get them, and maybe it's a game I like. And I've got back into the retro stuff, so buying some like old games that are my favorites. But I think for me, if I want to have the physical game, it's got to be something I really like, and I think it's nice to have these options. So with Nintendo Switch 2 games pricing, beginning in May 2026, and starting with pre-orders for Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which is releasing on May 21st. New Nintendo published digital titles exclusive to Nintendo Switch 2 will have an MSRP that is different from physical versions. So $59.99 digital versus $69.99 USDs for using Yoshi as an example. So they say Nintendo games offer the same experience whether in package or digital format, and this change simply reflects the different costs associated with producing and distributing each format and offers players more choice in how this can buy and play Nintendo games. As always, retail partners set their own prices for physical and digital games, and pricing for each title may vary. So, I can see the logic behind, producing a physical product does cost more. I would also maybe like to think, hey, I'm not too concerned with that. Maybe you guys should just, figure that out on your end and just, tell me what it is. At the end, I don't really need to be sold at this much, but, either way, I think it's a nice option. They could easily charge $69.99 for both, and they're going to give alleged $10 discount on the digital. So I'm happy about that. But one thing I'm going to notice in some of my notes here, and I think even twice within this update, is something that is a little bit, or is definitely worrisome. They keep talking about MSRP, and that's something that, they're saying over in the Pokemon card world as well. They have an MSRP price, but you're not ever going to be paying MSRP anywhere. And even we've seen Best Buy tap into that where, Resident Evil is having a shortage in stock and they increase their price. And, that's a huge, big box retailer doing that, selling a game for $20 more than MSRP. And it's strange that I'm seeing that in more and more of these corporate phrases. I guess, it's the reality of the world out there that all these things are getting, getting flipped or they're being sold for more prices when they can, and it just really, really is rough. So I think it definitely leads a little more credence to buying digitally. It makes it way more convenient, and I think that's what these companies would ultimately like, and this is a slow push in that direction that they've been doing for a long time, but just strange. The MSRP thing is strange, and it's just strange. It's just a lot different, but it's just how things are going out there. Because they say, as always, retail partners set their own prices, and that's wild, and they've really been taking advantage of that lately. So Nintendo Switch 2 games, making a little bit of a differentiation between the physical and digital prices, and whatever. That seems like a little small win and a nice concession from Nintendo, I would say. All right. A couple more announcements here for the midsection of all the video game news. This one's a pretty cool one. Pokemon Champions now has a release date. It's going to be on Nintendo Switch on April 8th, and the release date is the news here. So mobile is coming out later in the year. It's going to get a free update for Switch 2, and it'll provide even clearer graphics, is what it says. So in Pokemon Champions, you can get ready to experience everything you love about Pokemon battles all in one place in Pokemon Champions. This new battle-focused game will feature familiar mechanics such as Pokemon types, abilities, and moves, creating an environment conducive to rich and varied strategies for new and experienced trainers alike. So you can battle with Pokemon, including with Mega Evolved Pokemon like Mega Dragonite against other players in the Pokemon Champions game, the same game that will be used for the Pokemon World Championships in 2026. So I think this game's going to be pretty huge. I think especially when it hits mobile, it's going to see another big surge. But I know a lot of people are excited about this. I know a lot of people take Pokemon very seriously in the battling universe, and it seems like they're trying to funnel all those people into this video game that is going to be, available worldwide on pretty much every platform you can play it on. So I think that's pretty cool. And I think, I don't know if this will immediately be up my alley. I kind of liked more of the laid back portions of Pokemon, of just kind of up leveling and walking around and talking and seeing things and just seeing the different Pokemon. I do like the battles, but I don't know if I would play an entire game dedicated to that. I guess that's like Pokemon Coliseum from back in the day, which I did enjoy, but you never know. I could get caught up in the hype here, and I definitely have been on a big Pokemon kick lately, so I'll just be kind of excited for a new Pokemon release, and I know a lot of people are excited for Pokemon Champions, which has now got its release date of April 8th. All right, Marvel Rivals. The announcement here is it's coming to Switch 2. So the original release of Marvel Rivals was December 2024, developed and published by NetEase Games. Marvel Rivals is a superhero team-based PvP shooter. Assemble an all-star Marvel squad, devise countless strategies by combining powers to form unique team-up skills, and fight indestructible, ever-changing battlefields across the continually evolving Marvel universe. So Marvel Rivals coming to Switch 2. No official release date for this yet, but the Marvel Games executive producer Danny Koo has said, we're working on it, but when we have news, we'll announce that one, but we will do it. So it doesn't sound like it's coming anytime soon, but I guess maybe you could expect this by the end of the year, just for me, throwing a random guess at it right here while recording this. But Marvel Rivals been announced coming to Switch 2. I think this one's been a pretty big hit. I think they have a good base game there, and then adding the Marvel franchise on top of it, I think is a pretty good combination. This one's doing a good job of being multi-platform and, available to play everywhere, and I guess they've been doing a good job of patching it and having some seasons and blah, 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 blah. But this is a pretty cool one. Another example of things coming to the Switch 2, and the Switch 2, making its case for being your primary console. I think it has a really, really strong case these days, especially if you're not as concerned with just, maxing out the graphics. If you're able to accept playing a game a little bit of a lesser version, maybe some of these third-party things, I think the Switch can pretty much cover all your bases, or, somewhere in the 90 to 95% range of it. So pretty awesome. And then it does have the handheld aspect to it, which is, a huge selling point. So I'm definitely pretty high on the Switch 2. And I'm excited to see the third-party support continue for it. So Marvel Rivals coming to Switch 2, TBD. All right, the last bit of video game news I have for you this week is Microsoft Dungeons 2 has been announced, and it's going to release later this year on PC and consoles. The first Microsoft Dungeons was, 2020, 2021, came out on different platforms. This one's published by Xbox Game Studios, developed by Mojang Studios and Double 11. And Microsoft Dungeons, not a franchise I have any familiarity with, but let's see here. I wrote Microsoft Dungeons, Minecraft Dungeons. I was about to say, Minecraft's a pretty big franchise, so I think this will have the attention of a lot of people. But this one's the next chapter of Minecraft Dungeons begins in the fall of 2026. A new threat is descending upon the land, become a hero, and clash with forces of evil once more. So I just know a lot of people out there in the world love Minecraft, so I wanted to bring this one to your attention, that Minecraft Dungeons 2 has been announced and will be out later this year on PC and consoles. So that's all the video game news I have for you this week. We talked about a lot of different things. We started off with some bummer news with the Epic Games layoffs, the PlayStation price increase. We talked about the Xbox partner preview, including Super Meat Boy 3D, Dispatch, and Hades 2. We talked about some Xbox rumor mill stuff. We talked about the Nintendo Switch 2 production and manufacturing projection numbers. We talked about the Nintendo Switch 2 game pricing. We talked about Pokemon Champions, Marvel Rivals, and Microsoft Dungeons 2. So that's all the video game news and thoughts I wanted to bring to you this week. But there is still one final section of the show to go. So the last section is a break from all the video game talk. I like to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. Major League Baseball started within the last week, so that's my favorite sport on the planet. And I've been very excited watching those games and having the beginning of the season start. So even if you don't like sports, please stick around for the final section. It's usually pretty short and sweet. It's a little bit more of just like the emotion around my favorite teams and how I'm feeling and what's going on. It's not really too in-depth. So if you just want to, like my friends do, like to make fun of my teams a lot of times. If you want to hear some of my anguish or possibly hear some of my joy with my teams, because there's been some reason to have some joy, please stick around for the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 173 after this. Welcome back to the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 173. This is the Miscellaneous Talk section where I can talk about anything I want to outside of the video game world. So I want to get into the worldwide world of sports as I always do and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. My favorite NFL team, the Carolina Panthers, they're just in the off season. Nothing to report going on with them besides saying go Panthers. The NFL draft is taking place April 23rd through the 25th. So that's less than a month away. So that's the next really exciting thing going on in the football world. And then in the NBA world, I'm a halfway fan of the Charlotte Hornets since I'm a North Carolina resident. Last week, Tuesday versus Sacramento, the Hornets won 134-90. Thursday versus the Knicks, the Hornets won 114-103. That's the game where Con Knuppel got hit in the head by a ball. So a ball went into the stands. The fan threw it back and it hit Con in the head. And then DaBaby, the rapper, was doing a lot of funny stuff courtside. And there's a lot of videos and things of him online talking to fans in the crowd and just having a good time. So very, very funny. And it's cool to see how, how lively and how excited the building is. The Hornets have been selling a bunch of tickets. The team's been doing really well. And, they've even been having some funny viral moments and things like that. So pretty cool alongside a win. And on Saturday, last night versus Philly, the Hornets did lose low 114-18. But after this game, they are currently 39-35 for their record. They're 10th in the East. They are, battling for the, couple positions above them. I think they were 7th earlier in the week, but they are tied with 39 wins with the Magic and the Heat. So there's 3 teams there. And I think there was one other team, maybe a little bit ahead of those, but still kind of in the mix there looking for playoff positioning. The Hornets actually play today at home in Charlotte versus Boston at 6 p.m. So later today. So I'll have to let you know next week how that one turns out. And then next week, they have a lot of games. They play Brooklyn, Phoenix, Indiana, and Minnesota. So not really, not a ton of the NBA season left. Just maybe I think another, maybe another month or so of games. So not really a ton left on the schedule. And then my favorite NBA team, who I've had a pretty terrible season with my favorite NBA team since they traded Trae Young. I was gaining a little bit of, maybe a little bit sparkle in my eye back for him again, but I just don't think it's there. But since last week, the Hawks have still been doing pretty good, or have been doing okay. Monday versus Memphis last week, the Hawks won 146-107. Wednesday at Detroit, the Hawks won in overtime 130-129. Friday at Boston, the Hawks lost 102-109. Saturday at Sacramento, the Hawks won 123-113. So the Hawks are currently 42-33 and 6th in the East. So at least they're playoff bound. And that is nice. And the East is kind of, I wouldn't say the East is wide open, especially not with talking about the Hawks. But, I've just been a little bit too burned or too sad by the Hawks to be fully interested. But, I'm sure I'll watch some playoff basketball and, go Hawks. But, they've hurt my heart over there in the Hawks. Next week, they're going to play Boston, Orlando, and Brooklyn. All right, but my favorite sport in the universe has started as of last week, and that is Major League Baseball, and the Atlanta Braves are playing baseball again, and Ronald Acuna Jr. is out there balling, and I'm excited. So last week, the season started for the Braves on Friday versus Kansas City in Atlanta. The Braves won 6-0, so what a wonderful start to the season. Chris Sale was on the mound looking like the veteran ace that we need. Home runs by the Braves. I think there was 3 different home runs in that game, and just, an immaculate game for the first game of the season for the Atlanta Braves. This is their first home opener in a while, and they put on a really good show, and a wonderful thing to watch. 6-0 blanked out on the first game. Can't really ask for too much more. And then Saturday last night versus Kansas City, the Braves won 6-2. It was a really, really close game all the way through, so another good game. Ronaldo Lopez was opened this one on the mound. I believe he gave up 1 run. I think it was just a bomb, or I think it was actually an error. But I think he I'm trying to remember, but the majority of the score at the end, the 6-2 score, was from a grand slam walk-off by Dominic Smith, the new Atlanta Brave. So if you recognize Dom Smith, he spent most of his early career as a Met, so can't really be too happy about that. But in the last couple seasons, he's gone to a few different teams: the Nats, the Red Sox, the Reds, and most recently the Giants. But now he is an Atlanta Brave, and he hit a walk-off grand slam for them last night, which was amazing. He had it down to a full count, or he had to. He just needed. If he took a ball, the bases were loaded. It was the full count, bases were loaded. If he was going to take a ball, it would walk in the winning run. But he decided to, hit a grand slam. So what a wonderful walk-off. Everyone went crazy, and pretty immaculate, perfect start to the season for the Atlanta Braves. So way to go. The Braves are playing today at 1:35 p.m. against the Royals to close out the weekend series. So that is in about 2 hours from real time when I'm recording this podcast. And next week they're going to play the Athletics for 3 games, and they're going to play the Athletics for 3 games in Atlanta, and then they're going to play at the Diamondbacks for 4 games to close out the week. So 7 full days of baseball next week. Doesn't get much better than that. And I'm just so thankful the baseball season has started, and watching other teams as well, but most excited to watch the Atlanta Braves. So go Braves. All right, that's everything I got for you for this final section of the show. We talked about all my favorite teams: the Carolina Panthers, the Charlotte Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Braves. And, the main thing is the Braves are back playing, so way to go Braves. All right, so that's everything I got for you for the final section of the show. And that's everything I got for you for the entire show. So I'd like to reiterate some promotional talk from the beginning. Please follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. I am back kicking around some ideas of streaming again. So, keep your eyes and ears to the streets on YouTube. You might catch me on there streaming some games or having some videos for you to watch later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day for any time for any amount if you'd like to support the show. So I thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week out there in the world. I hope if you're a baseball fan, I hope your team's getting some early wins and you're having a good time watching some games. I hope you have a great week out there in the world. If things are going good, I hope that continues. If things are going poorly, I hope that changes. I'm trying to think of what else is going on. I think the weather's going to be getting warmer. You got to love some weather talk, but it's nice to feel the sunshine out there, and that is about it for me. So, go Braves, go video games. I'm probably going to be playing some more LeafGreen in the upcoming week. I'm going to be watching as much baseball as I can, and I'll be back next week to tell you what's going on with the video game world and what's going on with me. So please join me again for another episode as always. And thank you for being a listener. And I'll talk to you next time. Goodbye.